the summary that was sent to them by Attorney General William Barr. It was a 4-page summary. We still don't have any idea how long exactly the Mueller report was. What steps will House Oversight be taking in order to clear this up?
Well, Katie, there's good reason that they don't trust it. Bob Mueller spent 2 years investigating this, and he was unable to draw a conclusion about whether President Trump broke the law and obstructed justice. And here William Barr comes in 48 hours and makes a conclusion that there was no wrongdoing. That's just not believable. What we want in the Oversight Committee and Judiciary Committee is to see the actual evidence that Mueller compiled with great thought. Mueller wanted this to go to Congress, for Congress to deliberate this, and then to see if any laws were broken.
When do you expect to hear back from Attorney General Barr, or have you already heard back from Attorney General Barr about testifying before your committee? NBC News has reported that Jerry Nadler has contacted the DOJ in order to request that.
Well, I can't see any reason for William Barr not to testify both before the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee. He owes the American people an explanation, starting with who gave him the authority to make this conclusion. Here's the irony, Katy. If Bob Mueller really wanted to consult William Barr, don't you think they would have had those conversations and Bob Mueller would have put that in the report? There's a reason he didn't draw a conclusion in the report. He didn't think that was Justice's call. He thought that was Congress's call. And we really have to know, did William Barr talk to the president in drawing these conclusions? Had Bob Mueller and him conferred about this beforehand? He owes the American people an explanation.
According to the summary, which quotes Bob Mueller did not find any evidence of conspiracy or collusion between the Trump campaign, Donald Trump's orbit, or Donald Trump himself and the Russians, basically lifting the cloud on the president when it comes to the question of conspiracy or collusion. Because of that, how far are you willing to take these questions of obstruction?
Well, there are two things. First, Bob Mueller found conclusively that the Russians interfered with our election, and I hope that point isn't lost. He concluded that the Russians wanted Trump to win, that the Russians hacked into the DNC emails, that the Russians manipulated social media for false propaganda. So there was definitely interference. Now, we don't know the extent of the evidence of the Trump campaign's involvement. We know it didn't rise to the level of a criminal conspiracy. But here's the other obfuscation in William Barr's letter. You can be convicted or commit a crime of obstruction of justice even if you're not convicted of the underlying crime. If anyone has any doubts about this, they can ask Martha Stewart. There's many times where prosecutors convict people for obstructing justice, even if they don't convict them for the underlying crime.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you expect to learn? What more do you expect to learn on the question of obstruction? We've seen so much publicly between Donald Trump sitting down with my colleague Lester Holt and saying that he fired Comey because of the Russia cloud, all of the tweets against Robert Mueller, the tweets potentially intimidating witnesses, the intimidation of Jeff Sessions. All of that is in the public sphere. What else would you need to know?
Well, partly I want to understand why Bob Mueller decided not to ask the president to testify. Obviously, his intent is really important, and there may be an explanation for that in the report. I want to understand why Bob Mueller said that the evidence doesn't exonerate the president, and what conclusion, why he reached that conclusion, what evidence he saw that was problematic. And so I think it's important to read the report and to have Bob Mueller testify to explain to the American people his thinking.
Is the goal here to find a reason to impeach him?
No, no. The primary goal should be to make sure that this Russian interference never happens again, and that everyone knows that Russia was really rooting for President Trump to win, and every American should make sure.
Is looking into obstruction a way to get to the primary goal?
Well, no, that's the primary goal. The secondary goal is to make sure that we have separation of powers, and we never in this country have a president who's cavalier about the institutions of justice and interfering with the FBI or other institutions, even if it doesn't rise, Katy, to the level of an impeachable offense or a crime. I am convinced that there was misconduct, that it got very close to the line, that it was inappropriate, and maybe Congress needs to strengthen the laws if this doesn't rise to the level of a crime, so that no future president does this.
You're already looking into the hush money payments, the campaign finance violations, security clearances. Does the question of obstruction, is that more of a priority for your committee, or are these still the priorities?
I think they're all priorities. You know, Katy, people say, why are you launching all these investigations? Well, it wasn't our decision for an administration to have all this extensive misconduct, and that's part of our oversight responsibility. So the security clearance issue is important. The financial fraud that Cohen testified to is important. And, of course, I think the most important is to have Mueller explain his report and to explain whether the president did violate norms or violate